Alright, greetings to all of you guys. Hassan Al-Badri with you. Greetings to all of the guys, all fine people, friends, guys and girls, ladies and gents, all of you guys. This video is going to be refuting to how the universe is going to end. Quran confirms Higgs Boson. There is no clash. So, without further ado, let's take a listen and hear the BS.
Hi. On September the 7th, 2014, in an article in the Daily Mail, the famous physicist Professor Stephen Hawking warned that according to his calculations, the planet we're living in is unstable and therefore might collapse. This news, unsurprisingly, sent the media world into a buzz. Dr. Joseph Licken, a theoretical physicist at the University of Chicago, confirmed Professor Hawking's findings when he said, if you use all the physics that we know now and you do what you think is a straightforward calculation, it is bad news, and it may be that the universe we live in is inherently unstable. We're sort of right on the edge where the universe can last for a long time, but eventually it should go boom. There's no principle that we know of that would put us right on the edge. Dr. Benjamin Alanacht, a theoretical physicist at the University of Cambridge, further elaborates on the reason for this instability when he talks about a particular particle that exists in the universe called the Higgs Boson particle. The observed 126 giga-electron volts Higgs boson mass seems to imply the universe does not exist in the lowest possible energy state, but is in fact positioned in a slightly unusual place. If the Higgs boson mass were really 127 giga-electron volts and the top mass were a little lower than its most likely value, then actually the universe would be completely stable and the vacuum would be in the true minimum. Meaning that under the simplest assumptions, the measured mass of Higgs could mean that the universe is unstable and destined to fall apart. So basically, according to numerous physicists, careful calculations and computations, we're all doomed. The Quran, which dates back 1400 years ago, substantiates the predictions and calculations of physicists such as Hawking, Licken and Alanacht. The potential of the universe collapsing and being wiped out is real. The creator of the universe is well aware of what he created. But it's not all bad news. The Quran then goes on to assure us that God prevents the universe from collapse. When he writes in the Quran, God holds the heaven from falling on the earth. Furthermore, the Quran states that God prevents the universe from being wiped out. God holds the heavens and the earth lest they are wiped out. So what will the end of the world look like exactly, and what part do the Higgs boson particles play in all this? In 1960, the British scientist Peter Higgs predicted the existence of tiny particles that we cannot see, but that are, in fact, in us and all around us. These particles are responsible for giving objects their mass and explain why particles have the mass that they do. Without Higgs boson, you and I and everything we see around us would have no mass and therefore would not be able to exist. The other physicists at that time also agreed with Mr. Higgs that this particle exists, as he had sound calculations to prove his theory, and they called these subatomic particles Higgs particles, after Peter Higgs. On March the 14th, 2013, about half a century after it was first predicted, scientists at CERN, the European Organisation for Nuclear Research, tentatively confirmed they have found the Higgs boson particle, and the Nobel Prize in Physics was subsequently awarded jointly to Peter Higgs and his colleague François Englert. In order to discover the subatomic Higgs particle, CERN had built a large hadron collider at the cost of about $10 billion to simulate the conditions of the formation of the universe. In 1993, a group of British physicists went to the UK Science Minister at the time, William Waldegrave, to ask if he could help fund the building of the Large Hadron Collider in order to help prove the existence of the Higgs particle. Having no clue what they were talking about, Mr. Waldegrave announced he would award a vintage bottle of champagne to the physicist who came up with the best way to explain the Higgs field and the Higgs boson to the general public. And it was Professor David Miller who took home the prize with his famous analogy. Imagine a cocktail party of political party workers who are uniformly distributed across the floor, all talking to their nearest neighbours. If the ex-Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher enters the room, many of the workers will run toward her and form a cluster around her. As she moves, other workers run toward her, while the ones she has left return to their places. Because of the knot of people running toward her forming a cluster and then returning back to their spots, she acquires mass. These clusters, which run towards Mrs. Thatcher and then disappear as they return back to their spots, are an analogy to Higgs bosons. So if that's the Higgs field, how does the Higgs boson fit into all of this? Let's pretend our crowd of partygoers is uniformly spread across the room. Now consider a rumour passing through our room full of people. Those near the door run to hear it first and cluster together to get the details. Then they return to their original spots and tell their neighbours, who then run and cluster together to hear it too. Then they return to their original spots and tell their next neighbours, and so on. The result will be a wave of clusters running across the room that disappear as soon as they run. These clusters are an analogy to Higgs bosons. So to summarise, Higgs boson is an elusive subatomic particle that we can't see, but can see how it gives particles substance or mass. It's essentially what gives shape, size and mass to everything that exists. But the problem is that the Higgs particle that the LHC had found possesses a mass of approximately 126 giga-electron volts, and this has made physicists rather nervous because they believe it should be 127. According to physicists such as Stephen Hawking, Joseph Litton and Benjamin Allenach, this discrepancy could very well mean the collapse of the universe and everything in it, including you and I, as everything will become massless. And they are not alone in their assertions. In fact, the Quran also swears that this will take place when the world ends, when it says, "It is the day when people will be like scattered moths, and the mountains shall be as loosened wool." People like moths and mountains like wool sounds like mass loss to me. But there's something else too. In chapter 81...
Well, we stop you here. We have to stop you. The problem with the Higgs boson and the Higgs field and the Higgs effect and all that, actually, it says that, yeah, the universe is in unstable stage. And, yeah, there is a probability of collapse at any second. But it's not any second, like really, not really any second. According to the physicists who are doing the counts and doing the measurements and doing the predictions, it's going to take at least eons until that happens. And eons in physics is a plural of one eon, and one eon is no less than 1 trillion years. We are 13 billion. 1 trillion is 1,000 billion. Okay? So, 1,000 billion years of the universe, then it might happen, the collapse because of the Higgs field and the Higgs boson, etc., etc. And you say that the Quran mentions massless, and etc., etc. Actually, the collapse of the Higgs field and everything in that universe, the scenario is not going to be that we're going to be massless. Nobody said that from the physics community, really. Nobody said that. All what they're saying is that really the collapse, basically, the space and time will really create a hole, and that hole will eat all the universe. There is still mass in the universe, but then the hole will eat all that mass. That doesn't mean we're going to lose our mass. If that happens, if that occurs right this second, that doesn't mean I'm going to lose my mass or the mountain's going to lose mass, etc., etc. So here you're mentioning again a false information. And you deserve for that, you deserve this meme again.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my God, stop fucking lying.
Alright, so please stop fucking lying. Alright, please respect our minds. I hate people when they lie to me, because I consider those people are disrespecting me, disrespecting my intellect, disrespecting my mind, disrespecting my brain, and disrespecting me as a person, because they are trying literally and purposefully, they are trying to fool me. Such people I don't respect. So in return, Miss Claire Forestier, I don't respect you. I don't care if you are just a presenter. I don't care if you are just reading from a monitor. You should have dignity enough and self-respect enough to be as neutral as possible, as true as possible, instead of spreading lies and trying to fool people. Go ahead, continue, Miss Claire Forestier.
Quran, a chapter where God describes in detail the events of the end of the world. There are two particular verses that are of great interest to us and what we've just learned. So verily I, God, swear By clusters you can't see, as soon as they run, they disappear.
What is the verse? Chapter 81, verse 15, 16. So let's go to that verse and read it in Arabic. Which chapter was it? Chapter 81. All right, go to chapter 81. Surah At-Takwir. Chapter 81, verse 15, 16. Okay. Okay. That's, you see again, here they are playing with verses. Like you see, really, years ago, the Muslims were claiming these verses as a miraculous claim for the black holes. Okay. فَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِالْخُنْسِ الْجُوَارِ الْكُنْسِ. Okay, that's the two verses. فَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِالْخُنْسِ الْجُوَارِ الْكُنْسِ. Let's see the translation, how Miss Claire Forestier is reading this translation. So, verily, I God swear by clusters. By clusters you can't see. As soon they run, they disappear. Okay. And go back to the Arabic. فَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِالْخُنْسِ الْجُوَارِ الْكُنْسِ. And the English translation from Sahih International, from Mecca itself. Okay. So I swear by retreating stars, those that run and disappear. So I swear by retreating stars, those that run and disappear. And your translation is, so verily I God swear by clusters you can see, and as soon they run, they disappear. It seems that you manipulated the translation here. And it's really weird, really weird. Now they use this exact verses as it represents the Higgs boson and the Higgs field. And just a couple years ago, before the Higgs boson discovery, the same exact Muslims were using these verses as the proof for the black holes. So which meaning is it now? Do you mean black holes by these verses, or do you mean the Higgs boson? You see how Muslims manipulate the words? Okay, you see how they are really playing with words, playing with vocabulary. They make everything fit for everything in the Quran. Okay, if you say that the earth is flat, they're gonna give you a verse that represents earth is flat. If you say earth is spherical, they're gonna give you a verse manipulated that means the earth is spherical. If you say black holes, they're gonna give you these exact verses. فَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِالْخُنْسِ الْجُوَارِ الْكُنْسِ. And they tell you this means the black holes. And if you mention Higgs boson, they're gonna give you the same exact verses. فَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِالْخُنْسِ الْجُوَارِ الْكُنْسِ. It means the Higgs boson. Really weird. You cannot really stay on one opinion. Are you really that broke that you use the same exact verses for two meanings? So that means literally the Muslims don't understand the words of their God. Simply put, you don't understand the words of your God, simply. That means you Arabs literally don't understand the words of your God. What a shame. I thought that the Quran was lisanun Arabiyyun mubin, which means really a clear tongue of Arabic. Everybody should understand. But it seems to be otherwise. And you've proven it yourself by your miraculous claims, scientific miraculous claims. You've proven it yourself because you're using the same exact words for two things. Separate two things. Not even close with the meaning. Really separate.
They disappear. That's the English translation, but the words used in the original Arabic are more nuanced than a translation can express. Three words in particular that are used in this verse are khunas and al-jawari al-kunas. Khunas refers to something invisible, and al-jawari means something that is running. Al-kunas refers to something that disappears and returns back to its original spot. So if you put the three words together, we're talking about invisible clusters that run and that disappear almost as soon as they appear. Almost as soon as they start running, they stop and disappear. So what are these clusters that the Quran is describing? They're none other than the infamous and elusive Higgs Boson particles, which explains why the end of the universe will come about not due to volcanic activity, meteor showers, or an asteroid hitting the Earth, as NASA claims. The universe will end due to mass loss.
Well, unfortunately for you, within 600 million years from now, 700 million years from now, every living thing on Earth will die. That's a fact. The sun raises its degrees by 1% every 100 million years. So in 600 million years from now, the sun will be so hot, that literally every drop of water on Earth will evaporate, even the oceans and the seas. Our planet will be dry. Everything will evaporate. And because of that huge evaporation of Earth is going to be filled with water particles as a steam. Our Earth, our atmosphere will leach out CO2. Leaching out CO2, the plants and vegetation will die out. In result, we humans also will die out without water and without plants, because animals also surviving on plants. Animals will die, we will die in return. That's only in the next 700 million years, not even 1 billion. Okay? And according to that Higgs field and that huge unstable factor, is going to be in eons. Eons, okay? That means a couple of thousands of billion years. 1,000 billion year from now, 2,000 billion year from now, that thing's going to happen. By that time, Earth will be gone already. In 1.2 billion years, Earth will be already dead without humans. Alright? So, Judgment Day, according to Muslims. So you see, inconsistency, really. There is nothing consistent about it. And it's really funny, he used the same exact verse. Al-Jawar al-Khuns, what was it? فَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِالْخُنْس الْجُوَارِ الْكُنْس. Really, couple years ago, maybe 3-4 years ago, those same exact verses, the Muslims were using it as the claim, miraculous claim. How did Muhammad know of the black holes? فَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِالْخُنْسِ الْجُوَارِ الْكُنْسِ. That means Muhammad and Allah knew and mentioned the black holes. And now you're using the same exact verses for proving the Higgs field. Higgs field and the Higgs boson. So which one is it now? Which one is it? Tell me, please tell me and enlighten me, you dear Muslims. So which one is it? Is it the black holes? Does your God mean the black holes? Or does your God mean the Higgs boson and the Higgs field? Which one is it? And that proves also that you Muslims are really dumb and stupid and you don't understand the meaning of your God's words. That means you really don't understand it. You really don't know. And I'm really wondering, why were you quiet? Why were you quiet for a half century? A half century you were quiet. Peter Higgs came with his theory in the 60s, 1964 I think. Okay? And literally after 50 years, 2014, 2013 exactly, CERN proved that the Higgs boson actually exists. Why the Muslims were quiet for 50 years? And they waited for the advanced experimental physics to prove it. And then the Muslims, as usual, they have the guts to say, actually it stands in our book. You really? Were you that stupid? Were you that dumb? Were you that stupid and dumb you don't understand the words of your God? You wait for physics to prove it to you? You're supposed to be the first. You're supposed to be the first who discovered the Higgs field before Peter Higgs come up with the idea. You're supposed to be the first. Isn't it lisan Arabiyyun mubin? Isn't your Quran a clear Arabic tongue that you can understand and comprehend? Obviously it's not, because you cannot understand it. Once you say it means black holes, and now you say it means the Higgs field and the Higgs boson. Thank you. Thank you for exposing your really stupidness and dumbness, really. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for proving that you don't understand the words of your God. Literally. You don't understand it. And even now, even until today, you don't understand it. Thank you for proving that, Muslims. And as usual, I end this video by cheers, love and respect and kisses to you. And I will come with another video or 2 videos in Arabic after this one. Kiss to you.